guys, and welcome back to Simply Humble Homestead. So today I meant to film a different video and I just decided to change my initial plans. And so today we are going to talk about death on the homestead. For me, it's very real right now. We just had our bunny pass, which the rabbit, for myself, I got it for the purpose of its poop, using it as fertilizer for our garden. But the rabbit was for my daughter and my friend's daughter. And ultimately, in the end, I became very attached to it. I didn't realize it until it died, how attached I actually was, because at the end of the day I was the one taking care of it every day, because my daughter's 3. She just turned 3, and my friend's daughter is 6, so she goes to school, she goes and sees her grandparents, she's gone a lot. So ultimately all of the responsibility was on me, which is fine. So we're just gonna go over what happened, and then I want to talk about dealing with the feelings of having something you love die, and this being a part of this lifestyle we have chose. So this was last week. I'm trying to remember what day. Honestly, I'll blend it together. But we got our new exercise pen because they're in hutches, but I want them to have more room than that, to play and whatnot. We used to bring her inside, but I wanted to be able to give her grass and, a more natural habitat to exercise in. So we bought an exercise pen. We take it out, we set it up, and we went and put her out in that. And her and my daughter were in it, and they were playing and having a great time. I am recording video of it because it was an adorable moment. Well, when that time was done, I decided, okay, well, we're going to take the exercise pen down because the place that I had set it up wasn't a permanent place for it to stay up. So we took it down, and she was left out because she doesn't run away from us. She just kind of stays still and does her thing. And this is one of those pens where it's 8 panels and you put it together in an octagon or a square or a rectangle. And so I was folding that up and I got it propped up against a tree, and I was picking up all of the stakes and everything that came with the exercise pen that we didn't use in that moment, but we had unboxed it there. So I was picking up everything, and my daughter decided to go and mess with the exercise pen. She knocked it over. It didn't hit the rabbit, but it made a tremendous loud sound. And it quite literally pretty much scared her to death. She flopped over, and I thought she was dead right then and there. But when I went over to examine her, she was limp. So I checked her pulse through her ear, because that's where you check rabbits' pulses, or pulse. And she still had a pulse, but it was weak. So she went into shock, is what happened. I immediately got her inside, because the first thing that happens when they go in shock is their temperature drops tremendously. So there are rabbits that make it through shock, and if you want them to make it through shock, one of the first things that you do is get them inside, get them warmed up, keep them warm throughout this whole process. So I got her inside, I got her warmed up. Her heart at that point was racing, and she started to come to. She wasn't limp anymore. She wanted to hop around and interact, but I knew that we just needed to get her in a calm state and keep her as calm as possible to hopefully get her through the shock. My daughter, all she knew was her bunny was sick. And that's where I kept it at. I did high amounts of research on what to do. I could have took her to a vet, but the issue with that is we are 20 to 30 minutes out from any vet clinic, which would have required a drive, which usually stresses out rabbits out more, and she wasn't stable enough to even attempt that. So I ultimately chose to just keep her with me on the couch and keep doing everything that I possibly could. I was checking her pulse on a regular basis. I was counting respiratory rates. And it all wasn't looking good. She'd have moments where it felt that it was getting better. But ultimately, in the end, 3 hours later, she died in my arms. And that was hard. You know, I sat there and I covered her up the rest of the way so my daughter couldn't see her, and I took her outside. You know, I checked her pulse before I took her outside. But I knew that she was gone, and there was nothing that I could do. I tried everything that I could do. You know, putting her in a car and adding more stress was only going to fast pace the process. I probably wouldn't have even made it to a vet. And all they can honestly do is give them fluids to give them energy to hopefully pull out of it. You know, it depends on how bad of shock they're in. So I couldn't talk to my daughter yet. I couldn't. It wasn't something that I could do. So I got her outside. I put her in the garage. I double checked to make sure she was actually dead, because the first time I thought she was dead and she wasn't. She just had a very weak pulse, but she was deceased. And I messaged my friend and I was like, what do I do? Do I bury her? Do I process her? And it was more of a rhetorical question. You know, I was more asking myself, you know, what am I going to do? You know, I've got tears running down my face. I'd invested so much in this rabbit, and I didn't realize how much I invested in it until it was gone. And ultimately, in the end, I chose to process her. I wanted to keep her pelt and be able to cherish that, but I also didn't want her death to be a waste. You know, in this lifestyle, we choose to do really hard things. Our day in and day out life is hard. The chores are hard. So I have never processed a rabbit. We had planned on using her as a breeder. She was bred as a meat rabbit. And we had planned to use her as a breeder to create meat rabbits, you know, but we didn't plan on any of that to be starting until she was older, you know, and we had more time. So anyway, I jump on YouTube, I figure out how to process a rabbit, and this is not my first time processing. I process our chicken and our quail, no problem. But the difference is I didn't view them as a pet. I viewed them as food. You know, the ones that we were going to process, we knew that either A, they're going to be roosters and we're going to have to process them so we don't get attached until after we know that it's a hen, or we were straight up just having them for food. This was not the case. You know, she was very much a pet with multiple purposes. So I get out there and I had to pull myself together. Honestly, it was hard. It was so hard. Not only did I not know what I was doing because I'd never done it before, but I was processing my pet. I made it through it. And through that experience, I have realized that we're not always going to expect death. In this lifestyle, it happens a lot. Even things that you don't plan on die or plan on them being food. But we have the choice. We have the choice to get the most out of them, not let their death be for nothing. We learned a lot from her. You know, we learned what it's like to have a rabbit go into shock. I learned how to process a rabbit for the first time. And at the end of the day, I was able to feed my family, you know, and keep Propel, which to me is precious. So even in those hard moments and having to make it through something that I didn't think that I was going to get through, I'm grateful that it happened. I think that her death was to show me that we don't always plan for this.
Hi.
Sorry guys, I just had to turn the video on for my daughter. So, just hang in there. Prepare yourself. Because you don't always know that it's going to happen. For me, that was our case. I didn't once in a million years think that my rabbit was going to be scared to death. And it wasn't like she wasn't desensitized to sounds, because she was. This was just a sound that she'd never heard before. And then I had to make the tough call. I had to choose what we were going to do. I had to choose how I'm going to tell my daughter that her pet's dead. All those things were hard. But I wouldn't go back and change it either, because I learned a valuable lesson in that. Which is we get to choose on how we're going to deal with it. We're either going to sit there and feel sorry for ourselves, which I wanted to do, or we are going to try to make it into the best situation that we can. And that's ultimately what I chose to do. And I am grateful for that. So next time I will be prepared. And with this happening, I learned a new skill. So I hope that this video helps you guys when this happens, because it is so frequent in this lifestyle. And I hope that you know that you're not alone, because it's easy to want to just feel sad and feel defeated and why am I doing this? We're doing this to be more self-sufficient. We're doing this to live off of our land. The circle of life. This is a part of that circle of life. So thank you guys. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Friday, I'll be putting out another video, the video I meant to put out today. Everyone have a good day. Bye.